My dear friend, let me ask you something straight from the depths of your soul. How many more nights will you lie awake, burdened by the poison that someone else poured into your spirit? How many more days will you let their lies, their envy, their wicked schemes steal what God placed within you? This moment is not just another moment. It is a divine interruption. God brought you here right now for one reason: to remind you that no evil on this earth has the power to steal your peace, unless you hand it over, and you will not hand it over anymore. The world is filled with noise, with darkness, with people whose hearts are not ruled by God, but by jealousy, by manipulation, by selfish desires. You have seen them. You know them. They smile to your face and plot behind your back. They speak softly and strike viciously. But listen carefully when your peace is rooted in the presence of God. No demon in disguise can uproot it. Your calm is your covenant with God. It is sacred. It is your spiritual armor. It is not for sale. It is not for compromise. God has not brought you this far for you to crumble under the pressure of people who don't know the power that sustains you. Some of you have cried silent tears, wondering why the betrayal hurt so deeply. You helped them, you loved them, you stood by them, and yet they turned against you. But I tell you now, your peace is not tied to how people treat you. Your peace flows from how closely you walk with God. Evil people cannot touch what they did not create. They can only attack it when you let them in. But you have the right, the holy right, to guard your peace like a lion guards its den. Fierce, unshaken, unapologetic. There are people in your life whose only mission is to drain your joy. They don't want to see you rise. They thrive on chaos. They feed off division. They feel powerful when you feel weak. But God says, I am your strength. I am your shield. I am your peace. You see, when you know where your peace comes from, you no longer panic when people walk away. You no longer collapse when they turn their back. You no longer lose sleep when they throw their fiery darts. Because you know something deep in your bones. God is still in control. You must stop explaining your peace to people who live in confusion. You must stop defending your silence to those who thrive on noise. There is a reason why God is calling you to higher ground. Not everyone can follow you where you're going. Some people were assigned to your past, not your destiny, and when they can no longer manipulate you, they will call you difficult. When they can no longer provoke you, they will say you've changed. But change is necessary. Growth is spiritual peace. Is maturity you are not who you used to be. And that is proof that God's hand is on your life. I want to speak to the soul that's been quietly suffering. The one who still smiles in public but cries behind closed doors. The one who feels the weight of every word spoken in bitterness. The one who's been trying to be strong, even when the strength feels like it's slipping. Hear this and hear it with the force of heaven behind it. God sees you, God knows. And God has not abandoned you to fight this alone. When evil people rise against you, they are not rising against you alone. They are rising against the God who stands with you. And God never loses. You must learn the power of stillness. The power of walking away without explaining. The power of not responding. That is not weakness, that is spiritual strength. That is authority. That is God's peace anchoring you in the storm. Evil thrives on your reaction. When you do not react, you rob it of its fuel. When you remain rooted, you dismantle its strategy. When you walk in peace, you declare with every step, my life is governed by God. Not by the chaos of men. Let them talk. Let them plot. Let them twist your name. Let them gather in secret. They will fall in the open. Because when God is for you, no scheme of man can prosper. Do not waste another second trying to convince the blind to see your heart. God sees it, and that is enough. You do not owe evil an explanation. You owe God your obedience. And if that means walking away from certain people, So be it if that means letting go of toxic relationships. Let them go if that means letting go of toxic relationships. Let them go if that means choosing silence over drama. Choose it because peace is the language of power. And your peace is your proof that God is in control. Some of you have forgotten who you are. You've let the bitterness of others stain the purity of your calling. You've let their opinions shape your worth. But the time has come to rise, to shake off the dust, to remember that your identity is not rooted in who walked away. It is rooted in the one who stayed. God stayed through the storms, through the heartbreaks, through the betrayals, through the sleepless nights. God stayed, and that is your anchor. That is your testimony. Do not let evil people trick you into stepping out of character. They want to see you react. They want to see you fall. They want you to break so they can say, look, I told you they weren't real. But every time you hold your peace, you declare war on the darkness. Every time you smile in the face of the storm, you remind hell that heaven is alive in you. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate, you shine light in places where shadows once ruled. You are not weak for walking away. You are wise. You are not soft for staying silent. You are spiritually grounded, and peace is your power. Stop giving evil people front row seats to your life. If their words don't come from God, they should not reach your soul. If their presence steals your joy, it's time to release them. You are not called to be everyone's savior. You are called to walk in obedience with God. You are not responsible for healing their wounds. While they keep wounding you, you are not required to entertain their confusion. At the cost of your clarity, your peace is too precious to be placed in the hands of people who have no intention of honoring it. There is a time to fight, and there is a time to be still. And right now, God is calling you to be still in Him, to trust His process, to rest in His timing, to believe that even when evil rises, it will never overcome what is covered by God. The battle is not yours, the battle is God's. And when God fights, He does not miss. When God defends, no weapon formed can stand. When God lifts you up, no hand of man can pull you down. You are not alone, God is with you. And because He is with you, peace will follow you, peace in the chaos, peace in the silence, peace in the betrayal, peace in the delay, peace when they mock you, peace when they mock you, peace when they misunderstand you, peace when they lie about you, peace when they leave you. That peace is not manufactured. It is divine, it is unshakable. It is your birthright as someone who walks with God. I know the pain is real, I know it hurts when people you love turned into people who wounded you. But you must choose to rise. Do not let their actions become your identity. Do not let their darkness dim your light. You must protect the sanctuary of your soul. Evil has a strategy to confuse you, to distract you, to provoke you. But God has a greater plan, to establish you, to strengthen you, to crown you with peace that passes all understanding. You are not just surviving. You are overcoming, you are rising, you are conquering. And every step you take in peace is a slap in the face of the enemy. Let them wonder why you're not responding. Let them question why you're not broken. Let them marvel at your silence. That silence is thunder in the spirit. That calm is a war cry in the heavens. That peace is proof that God has you surrounded. Let me remind you of something. Eternal peace is not the absence of evil. It is the presence of God in the midst of it. You can walk through fire and not be burned if God is with you. You can be surrounded by enemies and still feast in peace. If God is preparing your table, you can lose everything man gave you and still be at rest. If you got what only God can provide, evil thrives where silence is misused, and peace is mistaken for weakness. But you chosen by God must understand this. Your peace is not passive. It is not weakness, it is warfare. It is the holy stillness of someone who knows that God is watching, working and warring on their behalf. when you refuse to let evil people disrupt your peace. You are not ignoring the battle. You are trusting the one who has already won it. That kind of peace cannot be taught by men. It is planted by God, and it grows deep in the soul of the one who walks. With unwavering faith, you were never meant to fight every voice. Every attack, every whisper, every rumor, that's not your assignment. That is God's domain. And when you try to fight what God has already declared finished, you only exhaust yourself and empower the very forces that seek to break you. But when you stand still, when you hold your peace, when you anchor yourself in the calm of God's presence, you deny the enemy what he desires most. Your reaction, your fear, your fall. Do you know why the wicked come against you so strongly? It's not because you are weak. It's because your peace disturbs their unrest. Your calm shakes the foundation of their chaos. Your silence exposes their noise. You carry a quiet authority that convicts them without a single word. And because they can't control you, they try to corrupt you, but listen closely. God didn't form you to be moved by the storms of evil men. God built you to endure, to rise, to radiate light even when surrounded by shadows. Every time you withhold your reaction from those who provoke you, you give glory to God. Every time you choose prayer over revenge, peace over panic, stillness over shouting, you are telling the world, I trust God more than I trust my emotions. That is power, that is strength. That is the true meaning of surrender. Not to people, but to God. It is the surrender that makes you unshakable. The surrender that allows peace to rule your life like a mighty river, cutting through mountains of darkness and carving paths of righteousness wherever it flows. God is calling you to elevate, to rise above petty arguments, to detach from toxic environments, to step out of places where your peace is constantly under threat. Not because you're better, but because you're being prepared for better. Every step you take in obedience to God distances you from the grip of evil, and you will know you are growing. When your silence starts to disturb those who once controlled you, that is when you will feel the tension, the pull of your past trying to drag you back. But remember, peace isn't just a feeling. It's a boundary. It's a decision. It's a divine protection. Evil loves to disguise itself in familiarity. It hides in the voices of people you love, in the routines you are used to, in the habits you've normalized. And unless you are spiritually awake, you will keep entertaining what is poisoning your peace. But God will not let you stay blind forever. When your eyes begin to open, when your spirit begins to discern, you'll realize that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every phone call should be answered. Not every invitation deserves your presence. Protecting your peace means discerning where God is not, and walking away without guilt. Some of you have been stuck in cycles because you keep revisiting places where your peace dies. You keep responding to people who do not respect the oil on your life. You keep explaining your value to those committed to misunderstanding you. But God is saying this is the season to separate from the noise, to separate from the drama, to separate from the drama, to separate from those who only draw close to drain you. You were not created to live in emotional warfare. You were created to walk in divine peace. You cannot build a life of peace while remaining in environments of chaos. That means you must choose. Choose peace over popularity. Choose peace over proving your point. Choose peace over being right. Because peace will take you farther than pride ever could. And the peace that God gives will not always make sense to others. It may look like weakness. It may be mocked, but it is the armor that shields your purpose. The wall that guards your soul. The quiet whisper of God reminding you, I am with you. There is a reason the wicked are restless. Because they do not know what you carry. You walk with a presence they cannot comprehend. You are guided by a voice they cannot hear. And they will try to disrupt what they do not understand. But God is your shield. God is your defender. When you hold your peace, you unleash heaven's justice. You invite divine intervention. You let the hand of God move in ways your words never could. Let me speak clearly now. This is your call to separation, not to isolate out of fear, but to rise in faith, to be set apart for something greater, to draw boundaries that honor the peace God has given you. And if anyone calls you cold for doing so, remind them that your peace is not up for debate. It is not a suggestion, it is a sacred gift. You do not owe anyone access to your spirit if they bring disturbance to your soul. God did not place peace in you to be negotiated. He placed it in you to be negotiated. He placed it in you to be protected. The people who try the hardest to steal your peace are often the ones who never had it. They don't understand how you stay calm in the storm, how you keep smiling when everything around you is shaking. But that's because they don't know what you know. They don't know God the way you know God. They don't understand that when you rest in God, your peace becomes untouchable. It becomes a fortress, a wall of fire, a pillar that cannot be moved. Don't be afraid to be misunderstood. Don't fear the rejection of those who can't handle your boundaries. God will never allow anyone to walk away from you who is meant to be part of your peace. And sometimes the greatest blessing is not who God sends, but who He removes when the wrong people leave your life. Don't mourn, rejoice, because God is making room for stillness, for clarity, for divine alignment, for the next level of glory that only peace can unlock. You cannot hear God clearly when you are surrounded by noise. You cannot walk in purpose while dragged down by people whose hearts are at war. The enemy wants you distracted, depleted, divided within. But God is calling you to be centered to be grounded, to be filled with unwavering peace, not shaken by every wind, not broken by every voice. Your calm is a weapon, your silence is power, and your obedience is louder than any noise the enemy can make. This is not the time to shrink. This is the time to stand, to declare in your heart, I will not be moved. I will not be broken. I will not be shaken. Your peace is your message. Your calm is your statement. Your stillness is your resistance. And as you walk in peace step by step, God will raise you in silence. He will prepare a table for you in the presence of those who tried to break you. And your reward will not be in the approval of men. It will be in the satisfaction of knowing you please God. There comes a moment in your life when you must make a holy decision. A decision to no longer allow your peace to be dictated by people who have no reverence. For God, you must decide to live above offense, above manipulation, above the wickedness that prowls in disguise, seeking to drag your spirit down. And this is not arrogance. This is spiritual survival. Because when you let evil people disturb your peace, you're not just surrendering calm, you're surrendering clarity. And without clarity, you cannot hear God. Without peace, you lose your sensitivity to the divine. That is exactly what the enemy wants, to pull you into confusion, so you stop walking in alignment. The person who walks with God must develop spiritual discipline, to look at chaos and not be moved, to be surrounded by gossip and remain silent, to be targeted by envy and still choose elevation over retaliation. It is not easy, but it is necessary. Because peace is not for the faint of heart. Peace is the posture of a warrior who understands the battle belongs to God. Peace is the roar of someone who has learned to be still. While the storm rages, peace is the song that rises from the soul. When you know that God has already made a way, you must begin to treat your peace like a sacred offering to God. When you allow your heart to be filled with rage, with bitterness, with obsession over what others have done, you're giving away what God gave you to protect you. Evil people know this. They want your focus. They want your attention. They want you to spiral into reaction so they can say, look what I made them do. But when you stay calm, when you trust God more than your feelings, when you refuse to descend into their darkness, you win not because you fought them, but because you never allowed them to define you. Let them slander, let them mock, Let them twist your name into something unrecognizable. God knows who you are. God sees your heart. God is not blind to the things done in secret. God is not deaf to the words whispered behind closed doors. He is not idle when you are attacked. But you must give him room to move. And that means stepping back, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Because when you let go of the urge to prove yourself, you allow God to elevate you in ways your defense never could. There is a kind of peace that confuses your enemies. It silences the accusers. It baffles the wicked. It is the kind of peace that says, I do not need to fight this, because I know who fights for me. You don't owe your peace to people who weaponize your kindness. You don't owe them access to your spirit. When you cut off what is corrupt, you make room for what is divine. And some of you have been trying to build a life of purpose, while dragging along people who were never meant to carry your blessing. Let them go and let God fill the space they left with wisdom, with strength, with pure peace that flows from His presence alone. If you want to grow in God, you must learn the discipline of detachment. Detachment from offense, detachment from toxic relationships, detachment from the need to control. Because real peace begins when you surrender not to people, but to God. When you say, I don't need to understand it, I don't need to fix it, I just need to trust that God is working even when I cannot see it. That is the kind of faith that brings supernatural peace. That is when you begin to move with a calmness that no slander can penetrate, and no betrayal can destroy. And let me tell you something else. Peace is not the absence of adversity. It is the mastery of self in the middle of it. It is the ability to be surrounded by people who despise you and still choose to walk with dignity. It is the wisdom to know that revenge is beneath you, because God's justice is greater than anything your hands could ever do. It is the assurance that while others are losing themselves in hate, you are finding yourself in God. There is power in your restraint. There is victory in your stillness. The world says, fight back. Speak louder, hit harder. But God says, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is not silence, it is spiritual precision. It is the refusal to be baited into battles that do not belong to you. It is the awareness that you are on sacred ground, and not everyone deserves to walk with you there. Evil people cannot take your peace unless you hand it over. They cannot enter your heart unless you open the door. They cannot poison your spirit unless you drink what they serve. That is why you must be vigilant. Guard your heart, guard your thoughts, guard your space, guard your time. Peace requires boundaries. It demands discipline. It is not something you stumble into. It is something you protect with prayer, with fasting, with constant awareness that not every voice deserves to be heard, and not every presence deserves to remain. And while you're guarding your peace, do not forget to speak to your soul. Remind it daily, God is with me. God is guiding me. God is strengthening me. When the attacks come, say to yourself, this is a distraction. God is still on the throne. When the enemy rises, say, God will not let the wicked go unpunished. And when the nights get dark and the silence feels heavy, whisper in your spirit, God is not finished with me yet. This is how you protect your peace. From the inside out, not from the outside in. Don't be surprised when your peace makes you stand out. The world is built on noise. Evil people expect chaos. They are confused by calm. They are enraged when you don't respond. They are shaken when you walk away. Because peace is power, and power in the hands of the righteous. Exposes the weakness of the wicked. That's why you must hold on to it at all costs. Because your peace is proof that God is with you. And never forget this truth. Peace is not an escape from life. It is preparation for purpose. When God gives you peace, He is equipping you for clarity. He is sharpening your discernment. He is aligning your steps. Because you cannot build the future He has for you while being tied to the voices of those who envy. The very peace you carry, so choose your battles wisely. Choose your circle prayerfully, and choose your peace relentlessly. This is your divine assignment, not to fix the wicked, not to argue with the arrogant, not to explain your peace to those who crave your pain. Your assignment is to walk with God, to rest in Him, to be a vessel of peace in a world at war, to be a light in the midst of shadows. And when they ask how you stay so calm, let your life speak before your words ever do. Let your stillness be a sermon. Let your silence thunder with divine confidence. Let your peace declare to the heavens, I am anchored in God. There is a sacred stillness that only God can teach. It is the stillness that does not flinch when surrounded by hatred. It is the stillness that does not collapse when the weight of betrayal grows heavy. It is the stillness that is not numb, but surrendered. Not silent from fear, but quiet from power. This is not the calm that comes from avoiding life. It is the calm that comes from walking so closely with God that nothing outside of Him has the authority to disrupt what's inside of you. And hear me clearly. When you are filled with the peace of God, you no longer need external validation to feel secure. You no longer rely on the approval of unstable people to feel grounded. You are not anxious to be seen, heard, or explained, because you understand that peace is not about being untouched by evil. It's about being unshaken by it when your roots are deep in God. Your fruit is peace, not the peace of convenience, but the peace of conviction, not the peace of comfort, but the peace of spiritual power. God does not call His people to live reactionary lives. You are not meant to be tossed like a leaf in the wind every time someone throws shade your way. You are not called to argue with the wicked. You are called to rise above them. Evil wants to draw you into its arena. It wants to contaminate your spirit. It wants to entangle you in petty warfare that distracts from divine purpose. But you have a higher calling. You were not formed in the chaos. You were formed in the hands of God. And everything God forms, He fills with purpose. And what He fills with purpose, He surrounds with peace. Many people walk around with noise in their souls, constant unrest, not because of what's happening around them, but because they have never fully handed their burdens to God. Peace requires surrender, not just a soft whisper in prayer, but a deep soul-level surrender that says, God, I will not carry what you have already claimed as yours. You must stop carrying battles you were never meant to fight. You must stop hosting thoughts that God never spoke. You must stop keeping company with people who are at war within themselves and expect you to be their battlefield. Do not give the enemy a seat at your table. Do not give evil people authority. They were never granted by God. Stop letting bitterness have a voice in your decisions. Stop letting fear shape your expectations. Stop letting memories of pain become prophecies over your future. Your peace is not just a defense. It is a direction. It will lead you into rooms where your name was not even spoken. It will open doors that no man can shut. It will shut down attacks that never even reach your ears. That is the power of peace. When it flows from God, it works quietly, but it speaks loudly. You must understand that peace is not passive. It is a divine force, a protective covering, a spiritual firewall. Peace is the evidence that you are walking with God when others are walking in confusion. When your decisions are guided by peace, your destiny becomes untouchable by the chaos of others. That is why you must guard it fiercely. Guard it from distractions. Guard it from gossip. Guard it from people who dress their toxicity in charm and their manipulation in false humility. Not everyone who calls you brother or sister is sent by God. Some are sent to watch, some are sent to drain. And you will know them by what happens to your spirit after they leave. If your peace disappears every time someone enters the room, take note that is your signal. That is spiritual discernment. God is speaking through your unrest. Do not silence his voice by calling discomfort overthinking. Know that discomfort is warning. That unease is spiritual alarm. Trust it, obey it. Peace doesn't need to explain itself. It just needs to be followed. When your spirit is at war, something is off, and when something is off, you must pause and realign yourself with God. The enemy is not always outside. Sometimes it is the voice inside that says you're not enough, that tells you to chase validation, that whispers you must explain your silence to people who were never meant to understand your soul. But God is not asking you to explain your peace. He's asking you to live in it. Breathe in it, trust it. Walk through the fire with it, and believe that no flame will touch you unless God allows it. For your refinement, not your ruin. You will come to a place in your spiritual journey where peace becomes your answer, where silence becomes your sword, where detachment from chaos becomes your protection, and in that place God becomes louder. His voice becomes clearer. His guidance becomes stronger. Because in the absence of human noise, the presence of God thrives. And it is in that presence that clarity is born. Wisdom as birth discernment grows. And you become untouchable, not because you are invincible, but because you are fully yielded to the one who is. Let evil people do what evil people do. Let them plot, let them deceive. Let them try to twist what you've said and misinterpret what you've done. But do not let them move you from your position in God. That is where your peace lives. And when you stay in position, God handles the rest. He will defend your name. He will expose what was hidden. He will dismantle lies without you ever lifting a finger. Stay planted, stay silent. Stay at peace because what God is building in you cannot be stopped by what people are saying around you. And understand this, peace is preparation. God is using your stillness to sharpen your hearing. He's using your restraint to expand your authority. He's using your silence to grow your strength. What feels like nothing is happening is actually everything being aligned. Heaven is moving, doors are shifting. Tables are being set, and when the time is right, God will lift you in such a way that those who once mocked your peace will be forced to acknowledge his hand on your life. But you must be patient. You must trust God more than you trust your own desire to be seen or heard. You must believe that not every battle deserves your voice. Some victories are reserved for those who know how to hold their tongue, bow their heart, and let God go before them. That's when peace becomes your greatest witness. That's when your life speaks louder than your words ever could. You must begin to see your peace as a sacred trust, something God has placed in your care, not just for comfort but for purpose. It is not a decoration in your life. It is a foundation. It is not meant to be fragile. It is meant to be fierce. A peace rooted in God is not moved by temporary storms. It is not shaken by fleeting opinions. It is not broken by human betrayal, because it comes from something eternal, unchanging and sovereign. When God plants peace within your spirit, He intends for it to be protected like treasure. Because it is treasure, let the storms rage. Let evil men conspire. Let the voices of confusion rise around you. You are not governed by noise. You are governed by the whisper of God. You are not led by chaos. You are led by divine conviction. You are not pulled by emotion. You are anchored by truth. The world will call it strange when you do not react. The enemy will call it weakness when you choose stillness. But in the courts of heaven, your calmness is a declaration of war against darkness. Your peace is a battle cry. Your restraint is a roar in the unseen realm. You are telling every spirit of division, every whisper of slander, every force of confusion. I will not be moved, I am held by God. There is no evil more dangerous than the kind that wears a smile and speaks in flattery. There are those who seek your peace, not because they want to share it, but because they want to destroy it. They come close only to extract. They speak kindly only to deceive. But God did not leave you defenseless. He gave you discernment. He gave you a spiritual radar. And if you are still long enough, if you stay quiet long enough, if you stop rushing to respond, you will begin to feel what words cannot explain. You will begin to know who carries light and who is sent by shadows. Not everyone who enters your life was sent by God, and not every conflict is worth your energy. God is calling you to rise above the noise, not in pride but in purity, not to isolate but to insulate. You must guard your peace like a soldier guards a gate. You must refuse entry to anything that seeks to bring confusion into your clarity, because your peace is the soil where your purpose grows. And if you allow weeds of bitterness, offense, and fear to take root, you will choke out the very thing God is trying to bloom in your spirit. Some of you are exhausted, not because you're doing too much, but because you're giving too much of yourself to what drains you. You're pouring energy into people who only leave you empty. You're offering grace to those who mock the boundaries God has told you to set. You're trying to fix what God has already exposed. But hear this, not everyone deserves a second conversation. Not every battle deserves a comeback. Not every insult requires your explanation. Your peace is not for public debate. It is a divine covering, and anything that repeatedly disturbs it must be removed, without hesitation and without apology. Stop handing your peace to people who would trample it if they could. Stop opening your spirit to those who only enter to stir your emotions. If God gives you peace about letting someone go, don't argue with it, trust it. Honor it, obey it. Because peace is not always about comfort. It is often confirmation. The discomfort you feel when someone speaks is often the voice of God, warning you that what looks harmless may be spiritually dangerous. The higher you go in purpose, the more you must protect your peace. Because elevation brings exposure, and exposure attracts both favor and opposition. Some will be drawn to your light, others will be disturbed by it. But you must not dim your peace to make others comfortable. You must not shrink your soul to fit in spaces that no longer reflect God's presence. Sometimes peace is choosing not to return to places where God's voice went silent. Sometimes peace is walking away, not because you're weak, but because you're finally wise. Let your peace speak louder than your pain. Let it carry you when words fail. Let it protect you when you don't have the strength to respond. There will be times when God says, say nothing, not out of fear, but because He is speaking through your silence. There will be moments when your peace will irritate those who tried to provoke you. That's because they never had control over you, and your stillness exposes their failure. And that is not your burden to carry. That is their lesson to learn. You must become a steward of stillness, a guardian of peace, a warrior of calm, not because you are passive, but because you are powerful, and power under control is the greatest threat to evil. When you don't react, you reveal the immaturity in your adversary. When you don't respond, you let the truth stand on its own. And when you stay rooted in God's presence, you become a vessel He can trust with deeper things. Peace will lead you into doors that noise will never unlock. It will elevate you while others are fighting to be seen. Because peace is God's way of saying, I am with you, keep walking. And when the temptation comes, because it will come to strike back, to prove yourself, to defend what only God can defend, pause. Take a holy pause, breathe in the presence of God. Ask yourself, is this worth my spirit? If not, let it go. If it costs your peace, it is too expensive. Do not bankrupt your soul, trying to buy the approval of people who were never meant to walk with you. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them misunderstand as long as you are understood by God. That is all that matters. You are not called to live in reaction. You are called to live in revelation. And revelation births peace. Because once God shows you who you are, once He reveals what He's placed inside of you, once you understand that your life is divinely orchestrated, no threat, no voice, no betrayal can shake what you know. You are not for sale. Your peace is not for auction. Your soul is not available for manipulation. You belong to God. Your mind is covered by God. Your path is directed by God. And your peace is sustained by God alone. So walk in that truth. Let it carry you through the shadows. Let it lift you above the lies. Let it hold you when nothing makes sense. And remember, peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of God in the middle of it. It is the unspoken testimony that says, I may not have all the answers, but I have all the assurance that God is working. And that is enough. That is always enough. So now let this truth settle deep into your spirit. You are not the product of what people have done to you. You are the reflection of the peace God placed within you. Your calmness is not weakness. It is wisdom. Your silence is not surrender. It is strength, and your refusal to engage with evil is not avoidance. It is alignment with something far greater than this world can understand. You are walking with God and where God is. Peace follows like a shadow that never leaves your side. Yes, they may try to shake you, but you will not fall. They may plot against you, but they cannot touch what is divinely covered. They may twist your name, but God knows your heart. And in the end, it will not be noise that triumphs. It will be peace. The peace of God will outlast every attack. It will silence every lie. It will overcome every evil plan. Because peace is not a feeling. It is a fortress, and as long as God is your fortress, you are unshakable. Walk forward now, not in fear, but in full confidence. Guard your spirit. Protect your peace and keep your eyes fixed on God, who is the source of your stillness, the keeper of your soul and the author of your victory. Evil cannot win unless you hand it the pen, and today you choose to write your story with the ink of faith, with the strength of stillness, and with the unshakable peace that only God can provide. You are covered, you are called. You are kept in perfect peace by the one who never fails. James 1:14.